Thank you for registering for the 2019 BC Open, driven by Innova. My name is John Goldthorpe, and I will be your TD for this year's event, along with Stuart McKissick. To start off, I would like to thank our sponsors for their generous donations towards this year's event, and in no specific order, they are the Township of Langley, Innova Disc Golf, US Disc Golf Championship, Ace Runners Disc Golf, PDGA Canada, On Top Roofing, Anytime Fitness Clayton Heights, Fulton and Company, BC Disc Sports, Eagles Wings Disc Golf, ARM DGA, US Navy, Masters Mafia, Robert Andrews, the Cook Boys, the Hislop family, Trevor Andrews, and of course the Jackman Wetlands Disc Golf Society, along with the many volunteers that over the last year have created the amazing Raptors Knoll Disc Golf Park that we have the pleasure of playing on for this year's event. The 2019 BC Open is a PDGA sanctioned event and a United States Disc Golf Championship qualifier. With that in mind, a few housekeeping rules to be remembered are littering, drinking, smoking, vaping, and the use of illegal substances are not allowed in the Township of Langley parks, including Raptors Knoll Disc Golf Park. There will be zero tolerance for these activities, and any violations will result in immediate disqualification. There will be no warnings or second chances for these infractions. Since this is a tee time based event, timeliness is critical. This cannot be stressed enough. We have a mixed field with many divisions and skill levels being represented. Please follow the rules for lost discs and respect those in front of you by exercising patience and those behind you by exercising speed of play. With that said, I will turn it over to Stuart to go over the course and some specific course markings.
Okay, we're going to cover off some of the different elements and markings that we have out on the course to determine hazards and out of bounds. The primary marking tool is white stakes, as you will see if you've played the course. The white stakes will create straight lines between the stakes in order to create an out of bounds line. When determining if a player is inbounds or out of bounds, you would visualize a line on the fairway side of the stake, so you don't go from the center of the stake. Imagine yourself attaching a string to one side, the fairway side of the stake, and then attaching it to the fairway side of the next stake, and that would create a straight line. That would be the out of bounds line. The other item that we have out there with white stakes are white stakes that have the tip of them painted red, and those are infinity stakes. The way those work is instead of pounding stakes into forever in some cases, what we've done is we've painted a tip red, and you would essentially create a straight line to infinity from that red tip stake to the previous white stake to determine if a player is inbounds or out of bounds. Another form of line that we've created out there is bricks. They surround typically hazards, but they're also do an OB line on the 14th green. The bricks are laid end to end. Now, sometimes when creating a curvature in the brick line, there are gaps that are in the bricks, and here's a photograph to show you a gap in the brick with a disc on it. In this case, you can see that the disc rim is fully surrounded by the outside edge of the brick, but would be over dirt or grass that is between the bricks and the gap. The gap in the brick does not matter. This is still out of play. The line for the bricks is the exterior or the outside edge of the brick line. So you must be proud. So if I show you this next photograph, this shows you where the disc is not only on the bricks, but also proud of the bricks. This would be not deemed to be in the out of bounds or the hazard in this case, okay? So the bricks are the line. The line by PDGA standards is the actual out of bounds area. So you must be proud of the line or inside edge of the line in order to be safe. So that covers off some of the different markings. That'll probably help you a little bit as we go through each hole now. So I'd like to start on a hole 1, of course. If you're playing from the gold or the blue, you'll have a mandatory you must navigate left of. It's attached to the corner post of the fence. Aside from that, very simple. The map shows you the brick line And then connecting to the fence is out of bounds on the right side. There's a stake line on the left, and there's stakes that go behind it as well. Noted in the caddy book is that there are 2 trailers down near the basket. They are surrounded by 4x4 landscape posts, connected end to end. If you are in those posts, inside of them, you are out of bounds. It's a safety OB. The line there is the timber. So if you are on the timber, leaning on the timber and inside the wood chipped area, you are unfortunately out of bounds and you will play point of entry. Something to note is if your disc never comes into play from the gold or blue, you have a choice. You can go to the drop zone or point of entry if you did cross at some point. That's going to be a choice for all shots that are out of bounds off the tee from the gold and the blue. After that, you'd play standard PDJ rules for point of entry. Hole 2, same thing. If you decide you want to go to the drop zone versus playing point of entry on this hole, you may do so. The drop zone is marked as the red tee. And then after that, you can see there's out of bounds left and right on this hole, all marked by stakes and infinity stakes. Hole 3, there's no out of bounds on this hole, so pretty simple and straightforward. Same with hole 4. There are nothing to do out of bounds. So even in the long grass, if you're a long ways past the basket, you would still be safe. Hole 5, this comes up to one of the infinity stakes that we're using. So there's a stake line down the left-hand side of the fairway. If you get to, it comes to an abrupt 90-degree end there. That infinity stake that you would see there also is the same infinity stake going the other direction for hole number 6. So fairways 5 and 6 are sharing an infinity stake. There is a fence line. I really don't think it's in play, but there is a chain link fence line a long ways behind the basket and on the right-hand side, like through the trees quite a ways. If you find yourself off the property line, you are out of bounds as well, and that's noted in the caddy book. Hole 6, out of bounds is very clearly defined on the map and by stakes. It starts at the creek on the right-hand side of the fairway at the base of the hill, and then it starts on the left-hand side up near the green at the top of the hill. And again, this is sharing an infinity stake with the previous hole. So, hole 7, this brings up our first hazard. So there's OB as indicated on the map around the back, left and right. And then there is a brick surrounding a garden area. Being inside that brick and hazard will create a hazard for you, and that will be a 1-stroke penalty, and you would play it as it lies. Hole 8, another hazard. Under the wings of the eagle, there is some bricks connected to some string that goes along the top of the bank of the eagle and along the tail feathers. So anywhere inside there is like a bunker, play it as it lies, 1-stroke penalty. Again, very clearly defined by bricks and string lines, so shouldn't have any challenges here. Outside of that, there is no out of bounds here, so long grass or long in the long grass, you are still safe. Hole 9, no out of bounds to worry about here, but we do ask that once you've putted out on this hole, you exit left over the berm and around the back to the 10th hole versus cutting through the trees on the right, because you'll come into visual play of somebody that might be putting on 17 and disturb them. So please exit left and walk around through the road. Hole 10, there is a triple mando if you're playing blue or gold. The drop zone, if you miss the mando, is between the posts of the mando. So that plays very straightforward. And you can see the out of bounds is marked on the map. It's right, it's left, it's long, and there is a little bit of space there if you're going towards 11T that is in play, that is not between the stakes. Hole 11, this has a hazard and plenty of OB. So the hazard again is marked by bricks, and then there is a river running along the berm of the dry creek right now that runs through the entire hole. And then beyond that, there is out of bounds right, long, and left. But it's all clearly defined by stakes. And I think once you look at this map and you play the hole once, you'll know exactly what's going on with the out of bounds on this particular hole. Hole 12, very straightforward. There's a fence line, the property line that is on the left-hand side and quite a ways beyond it, but it's on the map, so you're out of bounds if you go over the fence line. Hole 13, in this case, there's a mandatory if you're playing gold where you must be left of the maple tree. The maple tree has a few different, there's one very clear straight up the middle trunk that goes to the tip of the tree. That is the Mando line. So that would extend to infinity vertically. You must pass it to the left. The OB at the second corner kind of comes to an abrupt end on the left side. It turns 90 degrees and goes to the fence line. And then there's a horse pasture beyond the fence, and so their property borders ours, and obviously over the fence is out of bounds. We ask that you do not retrieve your discs in the horse carousel. That's dangerous for you and would create some neighborhood problems for us. We will be able to recover the discs that are in there. We do have a relationship with the owner of that property, so please do not hop that fence. Thank you. Hole 14 is our little island hole, marked by bricks and an infinity stake at the back end there, instead of putting bricks all the way up the hill. But if you miss the island from the gold or the blue tee box, your drop zone is to proceed to the red. If for whatever reason you miss from the red tee box, the drop zone from there progresses down to the bottom of the hill, marked by 2 orange pavers. Missing from there, you would play point of entry, I guess if you don't cross, then you would still have to rethrow from that area, but I really don't see that being too much of an issue. 15, mandatory, marked very clearly by a sign. Drop zone just left of it, again marked by 2 orange pavers. And then the out of bounds right follows the creek line all the way back behind the tee boxes, both the red, the blue, and the gold. And then there is a section marked by bricks on the hillside, which is safe but a hazard. And then, it's an island green up at the top of the hill. So in this case, the only note of interest here is if you throw a shot from in the fairway that's going through the hazard and then hyzers or anhyzers out of bounds outside of the hazard line, your point of entry is still in the hazard at where you've crossed the bricks. That being said, you don't get penalized for being in the hazard plus being out of bounds. You only get 1 penalty stroke, and you'd play it from your point of entry with the OB stroke there. So just wanted to point out the fact of the matter is that in this case, your point of entry still can be in a hazard. It doesn't have to be fairway. Now, again, the hazard line here is the brick line. Therefore, if you are at all touching the hazard line, that line is the hazard. Therefore, you are in the hazard versus being out of bounds. Hole 16, very straightforward. The OB's marked on the map. There's nothing too crazy here or any notes worth mentioning. Same as 17, left and right and long is out of bounds. And then hole 18, there is out of bounds stakes going down the left-hand side that eventually connect to the brick line on hole number 1. Once the bricks come to an end at the end of the creek, there is an infinity stake that is put in the ground next to the practice basket, next to one of the boulders. And that would create the line to infinity for out of bounds. I guess if somehow you threw it really way too hard and you crest the fence line through the practice area, that also would be out of bounds if you're over the fence and on the road side of things. So I think that covers pretty much everything. If there are any questions, concerns after a practice round, obviously you can reach out to any of the tournament staff. You could post a comment on the link here where you're listening to this, and we will do our best to get back to you as fast as we can with some answers with respect to the playability of the course.